What is the difference between explaining yourself and avoiding responsibility? I've noticed this is a common theme where people don't take responsibility these days. Instead, they explain themselves, they rationalize it to themselves, and then they just move on and act like nothing happened. That's not how accountability works. And yes, sometimes you do get away with it, but if you do it constantly, and I see a lot of women that also do this, I'm not being gender specific here, but if you do this a lot, people gradually lose respect for you and not want to be around you. I actually used to be very guilty of this myself. I was too prideful. I didn't want to say I'm sorry. I didn't want to apologize. I didn't want to take ownership. And then I wondered why a lot of people gradually drifted out of my life. And, I had a very small inner circle and I was frustrated with it. And then I started realizing it's like, well, I screw up and I don't own it. I don't try to make repairs. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't explain yourself in situations where you hurt someone. The extra context can really help, especially if you did something that was really hurtful to the other person. Explaining what you were thinking in the moment or why you did it can help put that person at ease that the intent wasn't negative. That can really help. So explaining yourself would be like, this is what I was thinking when I did that. I can see exactly how it landed. My intent wasn't to hurt you, but this is the impact, and I acknowledge that. I should have handled that better. I understand why you were upset. That one's on me. When you say stuff like this, you're acknowledging the hurt. That's the biggest part. Because sometimes when we hurt people, we're not the ones experiencing the pain from what you did. So the other person's hurting, and we need to acknowledge that pain. That makes people's respect for you go way up. Also, you shouldn't feel entitled to forgiveness or try to rush that part. If the person wants to be distant with you for a while because of what you've done, it sucks, but that's going to be the reality. That's the price you pay from causing them pain. And they need to be doing it back too. This shouldn't be a double standard where you have to take responsibility and then they don't. At that point, you might want to cut them off because they might not be able to take accountability. Also, when you're taking accountability for something you did, you need to leave space for them to communicate how it hurt them, and how it affected them overall. Because I've noticed sometimes when people are like explaining themselves, they take up all the blank space and they give the other person nothing, no chance to speak because they don't want to hear it deep down, because they don't want to feel that shame. But you need to sit with the discomfort. You need to let the other person communicate how it affected them, and you need to listen to them. That makes a massive difference. So they can be like, well, it really hurt when you did this. It caused me this much money to fix. You messed this up. Just let them have the stage for a moment. Now, dodging responsibility. This looks different than explaining yourself in order to communicate the harm you caused or what you were thinking and your overall intent. Dodging responsibility, you expect to not be held accountable for this. Luckily, I feel like most people are not like this. But you're avoiding discomfort, you're avoiding consequences, and you're avoiding accountability. So it might be, that's not what I meant. The person's feelings are valid, even if it's not what you meant. I only did that because you. See how you're still making it the other person's fault? I was stressed, tired, or triggered. That still doesn't give you a free pass to cause harm. That's just how I am. Okay, so you're aware of it and you're not going to grow. And if you're dealing with someone who says stuff like this, distance, you have a right to cut them off, because they're probably not going to grow unless they face consequences for how they treat people. Sadly, there's some people in this world that are constantly enabled, and as a result, they become more entitled and more emboldened to hurt people. And so sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a person like this that doesn't take any accountability is walk away. Because then eventually they either have to grow or double down, and then their life becomes very lonely. So for the person that avoids responsibility, they're more focused on the intent over impact. That's the only thing they care about is, I didn't intend to hurt them, therefore I didn't hurt them. Therefore there should be no accountability. There should be no issues. They should let me back in. The door should be open. See how entitled that sounds? If you hurt someone and then you think that, what? And it might be, okay, well, if I explain enough, I shouldn't have to own this. So sometimes their explanations will be 6 hours long. And the question you should ask yourself, in your head with yourself and others that treat you that way, is if no one accepted the explanation, am I still taking responsibility? Am I still fixing the issue? Am I still making an effort to change and grow? If the answer is no, you're dodging responsibility. If the answer is yes, then you're explaining yourself. Also, what I've noticed is some people won't take responsibility because they haven't done it before and they don't know how, and they're afraid it'll come off as clumsy, overwhelming, or it hurts their pride. But what I've noticed is if you try to take responsibility and apologize, even if it's clumsy, even if you're nervous and you're overthinking it, you're over explaining, and it's kind of an embarrassing moment, people will respect you so much more than you just avoiding the situation. You hurt someone and you just vanish from their life, you ghost them. Because I've seen some people do that, and the amount of the other people that were hurt end up just hating that person at that point. But if you come back and you're clumsy about your apology, that is so much better than just ignoring it and pretending it never happened. Because when you pretend nothing happened and you keep trying to come back into that person's life, they remember what you did to them. They don't just magically forget. That's something they're consciously thinking of every time they see you. So if you want to be seen as different, like separated from what you did, apologizing is the best way to give the other person closure so they can start seeing you as an individual and start seeing the good traits they once saw in you before. Otherwise, the only thing they think about when they see you is what you did to them. So that's something worth considering. I'm not trying to attack anybody here, but I do think more people taking responsibility where they screw up would make this world a much better place, even if we're not great at it sometimes. Saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. What can I do for you? How did that make you feel? What was the impact? Is there anything I can do to fix this, even if I'm a little bit late? Like, whatever, like owning it is so important.